So, wrote a blog post about this. I'm about to publish it here real soon. Basically, kind of do a background on basically giving you some proof of why people are illiterate or the percentages that are out there. And then I go through my 20 tips on how to be more financially literate and basically not spend as much money on stupid shit. So here's some of the data. 1 in 3 American families don't have any savings. 1 in 10 of people with annual incomes over 100,000 don't have savings. And half of Americans can't even come up with $400 in the emergency. That's just incredible to me. I don't understand how this is a thing, but it's a thing. 2019, 2 in 5 U.S. adults don't have a budget. Between 2009 and 2018, there's an 8% slip in the amount of people who could correctly answer questions about rates, bonds, financial risk, etc. Only 34% of people, and I think these were younger people, could answer correctly basic questions about personal finance and basic economics. So we got a lot of work to do. And the problem is you have a lot of guys like this spreading a lot of misinformation. Yeah, so you have a lot of gurus. Number one tip, don't listen to gurus, and definitely don't pay these guys any money. Definitely don't pay these guys any money. This stuff is very simple. You don't have to pay anybody anything. Watch this video. There's a ton of free information I'm going to link in my blog post and in the YouTube. And it's all crazy simple, guys. Like, it's not hard to do. There's some reputable people out there, typically the more older people. Dave Ramsey, I disagree with him on some things, but I think by and large he's not bad. Not a bad guy to listen to in general on this kind of thing. But really my first tip is, I think the first personal finance goal you need to make, if you don't have an emergency fund, you need to work on an emergency fund first. That's my view. And this kind of talks about what you kind of need for an emergency fund. Basically 3 to 6 months expenses is what you need, and it says to keep it in a high yield savings account. I'm going to alter that slightly for you guys. Something a little bit different, but requires some discipline from you guys, which a lot of people don't have the discipline, obviously. But so high yield savings account, you're lucky if you can get half a percent APY on those. And you guys know what inflation's like right now. Well, you might not, but it's 5, 6, 7, 8% right now. It's pretty high currently, and the average inflation most years is around 2 to 3%. And in most normal years. So this just doesn't really work that well to have 3 to 6 months expenses just sitting there basically decaying over time. So you're constantly going to have to be adding to it to keep up with inflation. So maybe a little riskier if you're not disciplined, but for me, I keep mine in a credit union checking account. And you can see the rates are so much better on some of these. You got to shop around. Find a local credit union is my view. I'm not a big fan of having a bank across the country or something like that. There's credit unions in every city, town. Find one that has good rates. Talk to other people in your area. Credit unions are just better than banks pretty much in every way because they're not for profit and they're cooperative. So technically when you go to a credit union, you're a part owner. The interest rates on checking are better. The rates, if you do get a loan or if you get a mortgage, you're going to get better rates typically. There's just tons of reasons why you should be using credit unions instead of banks. I could do an entire YouTube video about that as well. Okay, so we went over that emergency fund and where to keep it. So basically, here in mine, I keep $25,000 in my credit union because I get 2% up to $25K, and then above that is what I use to spend for bills and such. So I try to keep it always above $25K in that account. That's my strategy. But if you're not disciplined, you see that money there and you just want to spend it, well then I guess use a high yield savings, but just get disciplined because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't have that kind of discipline. Next is budget. So after you have the emergency fund, you found a place to put it, budget. There's a lot of ways to do a budget. There's spreadsheets. You can build your own spreadsheet. There's spreadsheets out there you can just grab and steal. I've used mint.com for several years. It's not a paid endorsement or anything like that, but it does work extremely well. You put your bank account in there, you put your checking or your credit card in there, put all your different accounts in there, and it does all sorts of cool tracking for you, and it makes it way easier to set up your budget. And also it's just got a lot of automated tools in there that kind of show you like, hey, you spent a lot more in this category this month, or here's a place where you're spending much more than the average person that you could save money. And yes, they hit you with a lot of advertisements. It is a free thing, and they hit you with a lot of ads, and they're trying to push you into their TurboTax and QuickBooks. That's the whole purpose of this whole thing. And yeah, there could be security concerns when you're linking your bank into Intuit, but Intuit, as far as I know, is pretty good with security. So yes, there's some risks, and yes, they hit you with ads, but overall, I love how streamlined it is and how easy it is to use. Okay, so you got your budget set up. Now you need a debt snowball. So if you have debt snowball, this is a Dave Ramsey thing. Really simple. Pay off minimum payments on everything and pay extra on your smallest. Once your smallest is paid off, you take the amount you were paying on your previous debt, so not just the extra, but also the minimum payment, that goes to your next debt, so on and so forth. And by the time you get to your last debt, say you had 5 debts at the beginning, you're still paying the exact same amount that you were paying when you first started, but it's all going towards this last debt. And if you do that, it does snowball pretty quickly. It may seem like you're never going to get out of debt, but if you do this, it does go pretty fast. There's another controversial thing, possibly, but I use a credit card to pay all my expenses, all my bills, everything is paid from a credit card. Why? Well, because you get 2% cash back on a lot of these cards. This is NerdWallet. These are the best rated credit cards of September 2021. NerdWallet's a decent website. I've been here many times, but yeah, I mean, if you can get 2% cash back, it's just free money that people don't utilize a lot of times. I'm a big believer in doing it, but it's also a thing where if you're not disciplined and you leave a balance on there and then you're paying interest because you left a balance on your card, well, that's not going to work. The only way this works is if you pay off your balance in full every month and don't accrue interest on your card. If you do it that way, it's 2% cash back on every purchase. It's a no-brainer. If you do that, combine that with in your checking account, you're getting some interest there. All this adds up really quick, and there's a lot more things we're going to get into. And there's things in here that you probably won't find too many places, because we started with the stuff that everybody talks about, and now we're going to start getting into some really nuanced stuff that nobody talks about. Okay, so yeah, here's the next thing. We're starting to get a little bit more nuanced here. Make more meals at home. So the average American eats out 4 times a week. So they get takeout 4 times a week. If you just cut that down to 2 times a week, you can save $1,000 a year. Pretty simple. And yes, I know it takes time. Yes, you may not have a lot of time. But if you're serious about saving money, that's a pretty good place to start. Now, here's another thing. Here's a very, very nuanced thing. It costs about $1.50 a day extra to eat healthy, okay? So that's going to cost you $550 per year. And yes, that can be difficult. However, factor in that if you don't eat well, you could pay up to $1,800 extra in medical costs a year. So, extra $550 up front to save $1,800 potentially. Good trade-off, right? So, eat healthier despite the higher costs is a good thing, not just for your health, but for your budget. Exercise is a big one. You can save up to $2,500 a year in healthcare costs. Now, how all these guys figure these things out, I haven't read the study. You can read the study if you'd like, but anecdotally, I believe it 100%. So, I mean, it's pretty basic and makes a lot of sense. Use Samsung Health, or I use Samsung Health because I have a Samsung, but if you have Apple, use Apple Health. Track your food, track your exercise. It does help to kind of keep you on track and make sure and let you know where you're at. Another little quick tip for you, and those are all free. We want to save money. We want to buy cheap things as much as we can, but there are certain things that you don't want to skip on for your health. And one of the biggest ones is shoes. Like, get good shoes, get a good chair, get a good bed, things that can protect your health. Those sort of things are very important because in America, our healthcare costs are out of control. So it doesn't cost that much more to buy a good sturdy pair of shoes versus a cheap pair of shoes, and the potential savings are just off the charts in terms of health. Okay, sometimes you have to spend money, okay? I mean, you can't not spend money. There are certain things you need. You need a cast iron pan to cook things because you're going to start cooking now, right? Well, this website, Camel. If you buy a lot of things on Amazon like I do, it shows you a price chart of the cost of this item over time, so you know what kind of deal you're getting. And yes, you can use like coupon websites, Honey, and these other things. I found Honey not to work that well. This price tracker app is amazing. You put your thing in here and you can track your price that you want. So really good. Okay, now there's another very nuanced thing. This is something I do. So buy locally produced food. This is talking about buying a quarter of beef from a local farmer. Costs you $714, and this is in Canada. Versus if you bought all this stuff at a grocery store, it's $1,000. Now, it's not a huge savings, but let's say you do this 4 times a year, 2 or 3 times a year even. Yes, it starts to add up really quickly. And some people say, well, you have to have a deep freeze. So you buy a deep freeze. Yes, there's, it's cost you $400 or $500 probably. Costs you about $67 per year is all it takes to run it once you have it. So that'll pay for itself really fast. You can save a lot of money there if you buy food in bulk. Growing a garden. This is a 600 square foot garden. I know that's probably excessive, and not a lot of people have a 600 square foot garden with good sun and good soil. But if you do have that, it's a little bit of work, but you can save $600 annually with a 600 square foot garden. Pretty cool. And you get a little exercise as well. Don't buy a new car. I think hopefully most people know this, but you lose so much value when it drives off the lot. This year, because things got so out of whack, was about the only time it actually made sense for a while to buy a new car, because used car prices got so extreme for a while. But typically, buy an old beater. If you're in if you're having economic problems, if your personal finance is not in order, buy an old beater, or use public transportation. We're going to get into that as well. Public transportation. This kind of boggled my mind, but they're saying you can save $816 per month by using public transportation instead of having a vehicle. I suppose maybe if they're talking about if you have a loan on the vehicle, I think that's possible. That's huge savings. If you have a huge amount of debt and you live in a city that has good public transit, you really need to consider doing this and sell your car. I know it's difficult, but you got to do that for a few years, and it'll make a massive difference in where you're sitting financially. Next thing is do your own taxes. People spend a lot of money to have people do their taxes. It's just numbers. It's just math. It's not complicated. People think it's complicated. If you have a very simple return, you can do your federal for free. If you have a more complex return, it'll cost you a little. But I use TaxAct. It's quite a bit cheaper than TurboTax. Does just the same thing. So there's no reason at all to pay some accountant hundreds and hundreds of dollars to do your taxes. Even people will say, well, I have a complex return, I have a business. Still, you can use TaxAct most of the time. Do your own work on your house and on your car. It can save massive amounts of money, especially when you start, say you own a home and you want to renovate your kitchen, something like that, remodel your kitchen. There's massive savings here, and people might say that's impossible. I've seen what it costs to have someone come in and remodel your kitchen, and I 100% believe that you can save that much money if you remodel your kitchen yourself. And the thing is, a lot of this stuff is not as complicated as you think it is. Even if you've never done any home repairs or any work on your house or on your car, I'm telling you, it's really not that hard. With the internet, with YouTube, you can do a lot of things. And yes, sometimes you might need to buy tools, but even then, it's still usually worth it to do it yourself. And I don't always have time, so yes, I still have people do things on my car and on my house. But when I was younger and I didn't have a lot of money, I was doing as much as I could on my own. And so when you do that, you gain some skills, and then the next time you go to do these things, it's easier, right? So I used to never think I could do a lot of these things, but now I'm not afraid of anything, really. There's not too many things on my house I wouldn't be afraid to do, or I would be afraid to do, I mean. So do it yourself. You can save tons of money here. Okay, and then the next thing is you're saving money, you're doing good there. You can get some side income going. Now, most of these things, I've seen a ton of these lists. I'm not a huge believer in a lot of these things. A lot of these things are these passive income scams that people are pushing left and right now, and I'm not a huge fan of that. Start a blog. Like, I've had a blog for, I don't know, 8 years, 10 years, something like that. You don't make money blogging unless you get absolutely massive. YouTube, I haven't made any money on YouTube. You don't make money on YouTube unless you get pretty big, or if you promote some scams, basically. Sell the, what's that stupid, the Manscaped. You gotta sell some Manscaped stuff. Get a Manscaped affiliate thing going, and you can make some money on YouTube maybe. A lot of this passive income stuff, there isn't a lot of money, but work on a skill, get skilled. Like, all these people push passive income and blogging and YouTube, but learn a skill, learn to be an electrician or something, and do that on the side. And people want you to not trade your time for money, but there is good money in trading your time for money sometimes. You would be shocked at how much a heavy equipment operator makes, or an electrician, or even a plumber. You'd be shocked how much a plumber makes if they're not working for the man, if they're doing it for themselves. You'd be shocked. So don't get trapped in these stupid lists that are out there everywhere. I'm not a huge believer in some of this stuff. There's just not as much money in some of this stuff as you think there is, or as they make it sound. Don't gamble. That's pretty simple, right? You want to save money, don't gamble, especially on the things that are highly rigged against you. And I figured this number would actually be higher. It's not as bad as I thought it was, but any money spent at a casino is bad. If you spend $1 at a casino, that's bad. Don't do it. Do not do it. Final thing. Tons of information on the internet for free. Don't pay anybody, like I said. Reddit, personal finance, they have a wiki, and it's incredible. There's so much good information here. You can just read through this sometime, and you will know everything there is to know. You don't need to pay Ty Lopez, I promise you. I think that's it, guys. It's been a while since I've done a video. I think I'm going to do I'll do a market update next week. It's been a while, but we'll try to get one snuck in here next week. I'm short right now. and it's not looking very good. So we should know by next week whether or not I lost money on that. And yes, I am a trader that sometimes takes losses. I know a lot of these people on YouTube don't, and on Twitter, but yeah, sometimes you lose in trading. That's how trading goes. But we'll see. I'll see you guys next week.